Welcome back to the table and a little bit more board game news. Today we just learned that there's going to be a new game coming from Osprey.
Yeah.
This is not Undaunted, but it's done by one of the designers of Undaunted, David Thompson. It's called War Story, Occupied France, and he's doing it with co-designer Dave Neal, who is popular from Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective and some of the Unlock series.
Yeah, it's a weird pairing. It's an interesting pairing.
It is an interesting pairing, and it's sounds like an interesting game. We don't have a lot of details, but this is a 1 to 6 player cooperative game.
Cooperative narrative adventure game.
Narrative war story, doing what David Thompson has done with Osprey in the past, but taking it in an entirely new direction.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound like it's just going to be like Unlock, but a war story.
No, definitely not. Like they're calling this a choose your own adventure set in occupied France, where you're basically infiltrating France, bringing down a target, and then getting out. That's like the basic premise. But it's going to unfold over multiple different stories. And it's a card-driven game.
Yeah, there's 80 cards in it, and that's like one of the primary components of the box.
Well, there's a storybook and then cards, but they've promised tactical combat mixed in with this narrative adventure, which I think is where the Undaunted feeling probably comes from. In that what I'm imagining here, since you're not making a tactical map out of cards probably,
but maybe
is that
in
the
that
book probably unfolds, and they said there's a bunch of counters and tokens and stuff that you'll probably use on there. But it doesn't seem like the focus of the game is tactical combat. Like Undaunted was tactical, and we saw Stalingrad where it's like, okay, you can make some decisions, at least based on who wins or loses, it changes the narrative. This seems like fully in control of the players.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to definitely be much closer to the narrative type Unlock, Sherlock Holmes kind of experience than it is the Undaunted.
Yeah.
It's going to be like that with a dash of tactical aspect. Because like you said, there may be things that you're building up and making some decisions, almost like choosing your own adventure.
They do call it a choose your own adventure game in the press release we got, which is crazy.
And the book has effectively 3 missions. They say 3 replayable missions. Now, as with these types, we don't know what this game is doing, but I do suspect that this could be a game that someone plays through those 3 and then maybe done with the game.
Yeah, it depends.
They're not pitching it that way. They say it's replayable, but I would think this is the way I feel about any narrative game. Once you've played through a narrative experience, I mean, we barely play through non-narrative experiences multiple times, let alone a narrative experience. Once you've experienced it, you're like, okay.
Yeah, but if you're playing through 3 missions anyway, that's probably a good chunk of time.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because like we've been talking amongst ourselves. It's like, is this going to feel more like Unlock, more like Undaunted, kind of a baby between the two? Unlock is not really replayable at all. Like once you've played through Unlock, you know all of the clues.
Yeah, pretty much.
But even the fact that they're saying it's replayable makes me think maybe even like different decisions might take you down drastically different paths.
I'm sure the choose your own adventure aspect will be such that maybe there's multiple endings. Again, we don't know that, but it could be really interesting to see if alternate history could play out or not. I
don't like games where your decisions are just like flavor as far as like we took path A or path B, but they both lead to C.
Right.
Like I appreciate games that have drastically different branches. So, I mean, I think we're going to get something like that. I mean, they wouldn't call it a choose your own adventure if it was just like, and at the end, it's just a slightly different ending. I feel like we're probably going to go in different directions.
Yeah, it will be interesting. I am actually looking forward to this. I am probably more of a fan of Unlock style games than I am Undaunted style games. But I'm interested to see sort of the mashup between the two, if that ends up being what it is.
The one that's cooperative though too. So like a lot of that element of like Undaunted, of like having to face off against people, like sounds like there's got to be some kind of AI, or it could just be that these tactical maps are just puzzles where you have to move specific ways and do specific things. So
I'm guessing it's going to be a puzzle where you're making some decisions narratively, but you're also making some decisions tactically. Yeah. And then at a certain point, you find out whether or not those tactics went this way or went this way. Yeah, whether they worked or not. The other thing about this, a member of the team is Kwanchai Moria is doing the artwork. Now, I'll say this, and this is the only piece of artwork we have. You've probably seen it already, but I'm putting it up on screen again right now. This is the box. And when you first look at this, I find it refreshing to see something that looks distinctly not like what you'd expect from Kwanchai Moria. It looks really, really cool.
Yeah, very realistic.
And I love to see an artist sort of like, stretching their wings and doing like a wider variety of art style.
And we've got 80-something cards in the game too. So I'm hoping, just like Unlock, I'm hoping that we do have.
Hopefully, it's not just the
quite
box
a significant amount of art on those pieces.
It might just be the box cover.
I mean, it might be, but I doubt it. I mean,
Cryptid was just the box cover, basically.
There's not a lot of art in Cryptid to have, but it just seems weird. Like, well, not weird, but just the idea that like 80-card deck, a lot like I just imagine it a lot like Unlock. Like you pull it over, you flip the first card over, and then you go through the deck. So
no, I'm down for that. We'll see if it's like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you have any questions at all about it, please make them in the comments below. Probably won't be able to answer them, but we'll get down there and talk with you about it anyway. Until next time, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.